Now clay comes in all different colors, but when you want to work with clay, you also want it to be kind of, like I said, realistic, so you can use paint. Um, acrylic paint can be baked onto Sculpey after it has been baked, so you bake the Sculpey and then you paint it and then you bake it on and it heat sets it, which is really good. So any acrylic paint that you prefer is really good to use, and thusly a paintbrush, but the paintbrush is not just for the paint. You can use the paintbrush for chalk. Chalk gives this fantastic color to clay because clay is sticky and takes in pigment really well. When you make things like dough out of polymer clay, you want it to be this yellow color, but what you add is like a dark yellow or a light brown to that clay, and it gives it this baked look, and it's really cool. So I suggest getting yourself a kit of chalk or chalk pastels because they are really nice to add to your clay surface there, especially if it's textured, because then you get the top parts that are all brown and the under, like the little divots, are not so brown, just like an actual loaf of bread would be or a cake would be. So they're really good. So that's my take on that one. Oh, and if you want to work with like glazing your food, not all food is glazed. And we have to keep that in mind as miniaturists. I see a lot of people make that mistake, like they take bread and they make it shiny because people are attracted to shininess, or they want the clay to stay some sort of way it is. But if you want it to look realistic, you don't want your clay to be shiny or your food to be shiny, because I mean, some things are shiny, like drinks are shiny, like they've got that nice sheen on them. Oranges, like the inside of oranges have that nice sheen, but things like cake or steak aren't really supposed to be shiny looking. And you can use all kinds of different things for that shine if you want. There's triple thick glazes. Some people use translucent liquid Sculpey. I use clear nail polish. It's cheap, it's quick, it dries really fast, and it does exactly the same thing as everything else. So that's that. Other tools you want to work with are things like files. Like I said, a file is good for texturing, but a file is also good for when you are working with wood or metal or anything else. Polymer clay even, you want to have a file because it's great to just get that pointy edge off of something. And they come in all different thicknesses and roughnesses, and they're really great to have. This one is really tiny and really thin. It's for getting in corners. You also want to have a razor or an X-Acto knife or a box cutter or a straight like razor. Polymer clay is very easy to cut, but it's also good for wood or really anything. And you always want to make sure that you have a clean, new, sharp razor blade in whatever you are using, because rust is not your friend. Rust sticks to every polymer clay color and ruins it. And when your knives are not sharp, it is hard to cut through things like polymer clay canes or already, hardened clay. So you want to use that. You also want to use a ruler. Remember, we are working in foot to inch scale, so every foot in the dollhouse is an inch in our world. So there are a bunch of converters online that you put in what size something is in actual real life, and it puts it into dollhouse scale. So the figures in my dollhouse, the bears, are 3.5 inches, and in our world they would be 3.5 feet. Normally you would have a 6-inch doll or a 5 to 6 inch doll, and they would be 5 to 6 feet in real life. When you are working with foods, you know, you can look up the average sizes of things. You can look up, like if you have a 13 by 19 inch baking pan, you put that conversion into, or you put that number into the converter and it comes out with the actual size. But rulers are your best friend because it helps you to measure those sizes that you need. When you are working with anything paper, you have to keep in mind that we have different thicknesses in our world, and therefore there are going to be different thicknesses in the dollhouse world. Things like cardboard in our world are going to be made out of cardstock in theirs. So when you're making like paper boxes or present boxes, things like that, those are going to be made out of cardstock. It's a thicker paper. Anything thin is going to be made out of normal white paper. And things like flower petals, I find it easiest if you use tissue paper, like the kind you get in presents. It comes in all different colors, you don't even have to paint it, but if you want to, it's easy to paint. It's thin, it's easy to work with, and it's pretty cheap, from what I understand. The types of glues you want to work with are, my personal favorite is Tacky Glue, Elaine's Tacky Glue. But if you were working with wood, you want to use a wood glue. If you're working with metals, you want to use a super glue. Just keep in mind what you're working with and what glues are designated for that kind of thing. Some things are covered in foil. The way you make, or the way you get foil for dollhouses, I find, are if you use gum wrappers, like the foiled kind. Like 5 Gum makes all these different kinds of colored foiled wrappers. Dark blue, magenta, green, light blue, things like that. They're easy to get. If you're not a gum chewer, ask your friends. Or other candies have wrappers that are made of foil. Sometimes the Reese's, sometimes Hershey Kiss, things like that. They're really good. Sometimes you want plastic. Certain boxes have a plastic front, so you want to make it realistic, of course, so you get plastics. Plastic wrap works, like cling wrap or saran wrap, whatever you want to use. But if you're looking for a thicker plastic, you can use cut open sandwich bags, and that's pretty nifty, something like that. It's thick, it's easier to work with, doesn't stick to itself. Just keep in mind that when you're working with things, you know, you can use almost anything to get you to your finished product. You just want to keep an eye out for whatever you can use. When you get used to making things, you're kind of on the lookout for, oh, what can I use this for? What can I do with this? So much so that I have taken the little nets that you get on like spider chrysanthemums in bouquets and used them for things in the dollhouse. Balloons or just weird things that you collect. Silica gel packs, like the stuff that you get in pill bottles or sometimes clothes. The silica inside sometimes is shaped like ice, or you know, things like that, snow. So you just want to keep your eye out for things like that when you're making miniatures. And that's all that I have in my dollhouse kind of toolkit. So if you have any questions, give them to me, because I am very interested in what you want to hear, and good luck. P.S. I am not endorsed by any of the products that I have stated in this video. None of these people owe me money, and none of these people have told me to endorse them. So, yeah.